Before using the private line SLA analysis app, you need to provision a service and enable performance analysis in the Optical Service Provisioning app. Open the Optical Service Provisioning app. First, set values such as committed values for the private line and thresholds for warning. Second, create a tenant. After the private line is associated with the tenant, you can view by tenant the actual performance status of all private lines in the Private Line SLA Analysis app. Third, create a service profile with SLA profile for private line services enabled and provision a private line service using the profile. Select the created service profile and associate it with the created tenant and private line level in the Basic Information area. Last, in the Service view, find the provisioned service and toggle on Performance Analysis for it. View the performance data of the private line in the Private Line SLA Analysis app. The Overview page displays the overall status of network-wide private lines and tenants. Private line bandwidth utilization statistics is based on the peak bandwidth of private lines. When bandwidth peak value of a private line in the past year is greater than guaranteed bandwidth risk threshold, the private line is considered risky. Private line availability statistics is based on the availability of private lines. When availability of a private line exceeds link availability risk threshold, the private line is considered abnormal. Private line latency statistics is based on the maximum latency of private lines. When maximum latency of a private line exceeds latency config threshold, the private line is considered abnormal. Click the name of the private line to view its details. The analysis data on the private line details page helps you to learn the overall status of the private line. You can find that this private line is running properly in the past month and is not interrupted. In the analysis charts of the past day, bandwidth utilization peak value, latency, and package loss ratio are calculated based on the average values of 15-minute data. Seconds level peak bandwidth utilization is calculated based on the maximum bandwidth of 15-minute data. Data points are generated every 15 minutes. In the monthly and annual analysis charts, bandwidth utilization peak value, seconds level peak bandwidth utilization, latency, and package loss ratio are calculated based on the maximum values in periods. Private Line Report displays performance data of network-wide private lines, including the bandwidth, availability, interruption duration, and packet loss rate. You can export the data by private line. Alternatively, you can export performance data by tenant for analysis and check on the Tenant Report page. For example, after the private lines run for a period of time, the latency becomes abnormal. You can view the abnormal private line in the corresponding threshold crossing analysis chart. View the line chart. You can also see that the latency exceeds the threshold in the past month, and the maximum latency reaches 14 ms. O&M engineers can view the latency trend chart and recover the faulty service, or export reports of the faulty service for further analysis. After the faulty service is recovered, the service status becomes normal. You can periodically export report data to view and analyze indicators.